Amr Aleph. Amr Abasi. Shoinin. We have learned. Klicheres. Shura b'konis mashke.
Second chair.
An earthenware kli is going to be mavatal from its status of a kli if it's got a hole in it, where if you put it in a pond of water, or you put it in a puddle of water, water will seep into the kli, which we say is a larger hole than a shear to have liquid escape from the kli. The law of Motzi Mashke, which is that in Gistra Bulvat. When do we say that a kli cheres becomes mavatel if it has a nekev?
The size of a pomegranate, no?
Sorry. The only time we say that a defect where a hole large enough for escaping liquid to escape from it disqualifies the kli is only when it's like a broken piece of a kli cheres. My timer. What is that broken piece of pottery used for? It's primarily used to put under a hole in your roof, which is leaking water. Well, you're not going to bring a gistra for a gistra if the gistra is leaking. So it's only for a gistra that invalidates. But for a regular klicheres, you need a larger hole. Amar ula pligi batre amar Rebbe Marava. Between two of my Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Yosef Ravavin, Rabbi Yosef Bar Zivda. Chad amar kamotzi rima. One says that a klicheres is invalidated if it has a hole in it, where a pomegranate can drop out of it. The chad amar kishorish cotton, a smaller hole, like a small root. The simonech echad amar bebeklamamit. I mean, those are two very distinct. One is very small, one is very big. So there's a pasuk that says echad amar bebeklamamit. You're going to remember these sheets. Amar China Barkan Shmeid Rabbi Eliezer klicheres shiur kamotzi zeisi. A klicheres is invalidated if it has a hole the size of an olive. Umar kashisha breid Rav is signed by Mishmeid Rabbi Eliezer varein kli glolim, kli avonim, kli adama. Such a kli would have a status like a kli made out of dung or stone or dirt. Shem mekablim tuma. Lo medivei tov, lo medivei sofrim. They're completely torah. And a klicheres that has a lid on it, you need a majority of the kli to be damaged. And the halacha is a vessel, says the Rambam, that is meant to store liquid. It becomes invalidated if it has a hole in it that water is going to seep into it from the outside. Parak Achadasar, the 11th parak. You thought that we had finished learning about Hotzah v'Achnasa. This parak goes on further aspects of Hotzah v'Achnasa that we haven't covered so far. If you throw a ball or something from Rishus HaYachid Rishus HaRabim, or vice versa, Rishus HaRabim Rishus HaYachid Chayiv, right? We've been talking about carrying something. You've done an Akira, you've done an Anacha. Well, when you throw, you have the same Chayiv. Now, what about Rishus HaYachid Rishus HaYachid Rishus HaRabim? So you have Olympic Boulevard. You have a house on one side and a house on the other side, and you throw it across. Rabbi Kiva Machayev, the Chachamim poetry. However, Ketzad, Shtei Gzusra Zu Keneged Zu B'Shus Harabim, you have one house on one side, one house on the other side. Hamoshik Vazorek Mezula Zu Potter. If you try to cross the Rishus Harabim through its width by either throwing or passing, it's Potter. Let's see why. Look at the Rashi Potter. Shalom Atzinu Zrika V'Oishata V'Lechas HaMishkan Rishus HaYachid V'Rachav Rishus Harabim Mafsik B'nei. There is no example in the Midbar where you pass from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid with a Rishus Harabim going between those through the width. Look, if you have a wagon here and a wagon here, and Rishus Harabim in the middle, and you pass from here to there, that was not done. We're going to see the wagons, the Mishkan was here, and the wagons were lined up 2 by 2 next to it, and then another 2 by 2 in front. So things were passed along the length of the Rishus Harabim, not along the width. I'm going to continue reading Rashi. They didn't hand boards. The Mishkan was made of wooden boards, and they had to be transported with wagons. As the Leviim were unpacking the Mishkan, they didn't load the wagons. They load the wagons a certain way. They didn't pass them side to side. The wagons were parked 2 and then 2 in front of them, so 4 in a line, like in a solitary file, next to the Mishkan. They were on the side of the Mishkan. When they were taking down the Mishkan, they lined up the wagons in the direction that they were going to walk. 2 directly next to the Mishkan, 2 in front of those 2. Along the length of the Rishus Harabim, they're going to walk that way. Because they wanted to follow the pillar of cloud. So the Leviim, here are the 2 agolos. The Mishkan, they would pass the wood boards to this wagon, and they would pass from this wagon along the length. So there was Rishus Harabim in between, but it's along the length, not the width. So how you stand back to the Mishnah. How you stand bidyota achas? Let's say you have 2 balconies on the side of a building, and there's space between the 2 balconies. There's a Rishus Harabim below there. Chayiv, because that's like exactly the way you did it in the Mishkan, because you transferred something through hashata, through passing, the way they did it in the Mishkan. However, hazoyrek potter, if you threw it as potter, Rashi says, it's above 10. They never threw things. In loading these boards, they handed them, but not throwing, not by length and not by width. So moishit your chayit, zoyrek your pot. So we'll have to explain Rabbi Akiva, who said that when you throw from Rishus HaYachid, with the Rosh Hashanah in the middle, even across its width, why Rabbi Akiva is Machai. That's one piece we haven't understood yet. Now, you have two wagons that are lined up single file in the Rosh Hashanah. But there's space between the wagons. The wagons are a Rosh Hashanah because they're 4x4 and 10 tvachim high. And then you have Rosh Hashanah in between the wagons. So if you try to pass a board from one to another, pass them. Avalo zorkim, but you can't throw them. And that's the halacha that the Rambam brings. Oh, the Mishnah says this is how the Levium did in the Mishkan. They passed them that way. That's why in our halacha, Hoshata is Asr and Zrika is Pat. Michte. Zrika told the Dotzahi. Throwing, right, the Av Malacha is Hotzah. Hotzah means going for Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. Where do we see that there was transferring? Remember, all of the malachas that are asur are malachas that had to be done in the Mishkan. Where do you see that they did hotzah from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah? Amar Yechnon, the Amar Kra, by Yitzav Moshe by Aviru Kol B'Machane. They announced that people should bring donations to the Mishkan. So Moshe Chanavi Yosef b'Machne Levia. He lived in the Levium camp, which was Rosh Hashanah. And he warned them, don't bring things from your Rosh Hashanah to my Rosh Hashanah. So that's the classic Hotzah. So who says that pasuk was said on Shabbos? Dilma b'chol koi. And the reason he told them to stop bringing mishum d'shlim ala malacha, because they didn't need it. They didn't need any more gifts. Because it says.
Where did we know that Machane Levia was always a Rosh Hashanah? Where do we know that from?
Rashi says, Machane Levia Rosh Hashanah mishayu hakol mitzuyin etzel Moshe Rabbeinu. Everybody wanted to be by Moshe Rabbeinu, so that's Rosh Hashanah.
But don't they have to be 600,000?
Yeah, I mean, how did the other places? I mean, there would have to be 600,000 people coming at one time to Moshe Rabbeinu to be that considered. Every other reshut was a reshut hayachid. All the other machane not were reshut.
No, the people's tents were the reshut hayachid, and then when they went to the Machane Levia, it was considered going from reshut hayachid to reshut Rabim.
Yeah,
but it says reshut hayachid did lechem from their tent. The Machane Levia was considered a public place. It's like Tiananmen Square. It's like St. Peter, Lahavdil Elef Avdolas, St. Peter's Square where the Pope is. So that's a Rosh Hashanah. You got hundreds of thousands of people can gather there. It's not that all 600,000 people have to be there at one time. it's a place that people, that God's Klal Yisrael would show up certain times, right? Moshe spoke to them, and then they all gathered there, like by Vatem Nitzovim.
Hold on a second. It was Asur. Hotzah was Asur from all.
What was that? We lost you. We lost you, Walter. Walter, we lost you. Walter, you're cutting off. Mario, what's with his voice?
That's my problem. It's his problem with his internet.
Walter, say it again.
He's frozen, Ernie. He's frozen. Just
Walter, you're frozen.
You lost me. My back. Okay.
he's frozen.
Walter, you.
Can we type to him?
Yeah.
Walter,
His picture is frozen. That's it.
can you hear us?
Can we go on? Save the question. He's on.
Oh no, he's not in the meeting.
He left.
Well, he's going to
He's
try
going-
to get back in.
He's going to thaw. He's thawing himself now.
No, he's probably trying to call back in.
I hope. All
So the Gemara, so she says very clearly that Machane Leviah was Rosh Hashanah because Moshe Rabbeinu was there and everybody wanted to be with Moshe Rabbeinu. So we asked, but maybe he has nothing to do with Shabbos. Maybe he told them to stop bringing things because the pasuk says V'amlachai Tadayah, they had enough. So the Gemara accepts that, and it deflects the whole thing. Rather, the Gemara says Gomer Avor Miyom Kippur. We make a hekesh between the word Havara. Pass the voice around in the camp, not to bring. Uksiva, it says by Yom Kippur Vavarta Shofar Chua. That on the Yom Kippur of Yovel, you blow a shofar and all the slaves go free. Malahalan by Yom Asr, just like on Yom Kippur. It's Asr b'malacha afkan bayom Asr. So we're talking about Isra Malacha, not like Shabbos. Fine. So the Gemara seems to have accepted the source for Hotzah. Hotzah specifically is going from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, going outside. That's Hotzah. Haknasa minolan. What about bringing something inside? Going from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. Minolan. So the Gemara says, Walter, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I didn't pay for the Wi-Fi for a few minutes.
So minolan svarahi. It's a svara. Michte meshus l'shusu mali afuki mali ayuli. So the Gemara says, well, we learn it out from logic, because what's the difference between going from in to out to in is the same thing. You're going from reshus to reshus. Still says the Gemara mihu oitza av. Hachnasa told them. Because the real malacha was hotzah. Then you're telling me there's achnasa, you learn it out from a svara, it's a tolda. Umichti. So the Gemara says, what's the point of calling one an av and one a tolda? They're both chayiv. What's the nafkamina? Nafkamina, the ovid ovis bari adadi. That if you did two different avois, or inami shtei tolodas bari, or two different toldas of two different malachos, b'chayiv tard. The ovid of the tolda di day. But if you do an av and a told of the same category, lo machayv elachada. Rabbi Yezer the Mechayv told him Makom Av. Now there is a Das Yochid, Rabbi Yezer, who says that when you do an Av and a Tolda in the same category, you're Chayiv too. I my karu lo Av and my karu lo Tolda. So now we have no nafkamina. What's the difference of calling Hotzah the Av and the Hachnos of the Tolda? According to Rabbi Yezer, there's no nafkamina. You be Chayiv for both. So the Gemara says there's a difference. Hach to have the Mishkan Chashiva. The one malacha that was actually done in the Mishkan, Kari Le'av. Hach the law of the Mishkan Chashiva lo Kari Le'av. The one that was not done in the Mishkan, is just learned the Svara, is not the Av. Or Inami. Hach the Ksiva, if it was written in the Torah, Kari Av. I look Ksiva Kari Torah. But really, La Halacha really does make a difference. The hadis not azorik arba amis bakoiso. Let's say you throw something sticky, and you're in the Rosh Hashanah, and it traveled dalad amis, and it landed on a wall. Now, if it landed on the wall, lamala ma'asor tfachim, kezorik ba'avir. It's as if anything above 10 amis or 10 tfachim shusarab is a makam p'tur. Now, lamata masar tfachim kazarak ba'aretz. If it lands on the wall through stickiness, like it landed, again, to be potter, if it goes, lamal masar tfachim has to stick to the wall. If it lands on top of the wall is a reshus in its own right. So you'd be chayav from transferring from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. So here we're talking about that it was like a stick of gum that stuck to the wall above 10 tefachim. So that is, it didn't ever land in Rosh Hashanah because above the 10 tefachim it's not considered Rosh Hashanah anymore. Lemata masar tefachim kazarach ba'aretz. So it's like you threw it bazarach ba'aretz arba amis chayav. If you roll something on the ground and it travels more than arba amos, you're certainly going to be chayiv. So if it landed against the wall, sticky, within 10 tefachim of the ground, it's like you threw it on the ground. Now the Gemara wants to know zark arba amos b'sharam minol and the mechayiv. So we've figured out the source for going from Rosh Hashanah to Rabim, and we found the source for Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. Now the Gemara wants the source for carrying something or throwing something arba amis Rosh Hashanah. Where's the source? Rabbi Yoshia, sheken orge yeriyo zorkin machateim zelazeh. They had to weave the various curtains of the Mishkan, and the people who were weaving would throw the needles one to each other, and they were both in the Rosh Hashanah. Weavers used a loom. They didn't use needles. We're talking those people that sewed the curtains, they threw the needles back and forth to each other. Maybe they sat close. Maybe they didn't sit more than 4 amas away. They weren't social distancing. Or it says, no, if you're sewing with big needles and you sit too close to each other, you're going to bump into each other with the needles. Okay, but still, fine, they would not sit next to each other, but they could still be within Dal Amas. So you still haven't sewn me a source. Amrav Chizda, can orge zoikin buchyar biyariya. This was some kind of there was like a ball that was also involved in the weaving, and this would be thrown one to each other.
Shuttle.
What was that?
It's called a shuttle.
Okay.
He calls it the warp and the woof, and the threads of it's called the warp.
But the warp and the woof is there's a piece of thread attached to a ball. Correct. And it's thrown, and
The
you
ball
have the
is the
threads.
shuttle.
You have the threads this way, and you throw the warp and woof opposite
Yes.
it.
The shuttle goes through those.
Correct. So the Gemara says, but he never let go of it. V'lo ogdu biyodo, so he doesn't throw it. So the Gemara says, b'nischa bascha, but the last one, when it goes to the end, he does let go of it. And then that could be a problem with Zoyr. Afraid the Gemara b'makom tur ka'azla. The space between this weaving business is a makom tur. It gotta have, if it wasn't arba by arba, it wouldn't be a Rosh Hashanah. And it wouldn't be a Rosh Hashanah either, and therefore it's a makom tur. So the Gemara still doesn't understand how you're getting to throwing something arba amis Rosh Hashanah. So Ella shekain orgi riyos zorkin buchir l'shoalehem. These weavers would throw this shuttle to friends who would borrow it from them. They were far arms away from each other. Maybe they were sitting close to each other. Matu adodi b'chefes. They would bump into each other. So therefore they didn't sit close. V'dilma shalchufi avi mishalchvi. Maybe they could sit close to each other if they were staggered, right? Visu had another issue. Mishi ilim adar who borrowed from each other. Vatanya luda ish mlachto shema osim mimlachto osav and osim mlachos chaver. Everyone came with their own equipment, and they didn't have to borrow from other people. Visu, and I'll ask you another question. You asked me about Zoyrek. What about Mavir, Arba Amis Rishon Minola, the Mechayim? What if you pass something, Dal Amis Rishon Rabbi? See, the case of the wagons is going from Rishon Hayachid to Rishon Hayachid Derech Rishon Rabbi. The Gemara wants to know simply, how do we know that if you pass something for Amis Rishon Rabbi, you're also Chayim? Ella, Kol Arba Amis Rishon Rabbi, all of these dinim about throwing Rishon Rabbi for Amis, or passing is Gemara Gemira law. Is a Mesorah. Torsha Bal Peh, Mesorah. It's not from a pasuk. Rav Yidamar Shmuel. Mikoshesh, there is a parsha in the Torah called Mikoshesh Eitzim. Somebody was found being a Mikoshesh Eitzim. We don't know exactly what that means. And he was killed. So Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel says, you know what? The Mikoshesh, you know what he did wrong? Mavir Arba Amis Rishus Harabim. He carried in Rishus Harabim 4 Amis. And that's why he was killed. But the Masnisa Tana, in a Mishnah, they learned Toile Shabbat. He harvested something. He pulled something from the ground. No, he gathered and put in a pot. Now, Lamai Nafkamina, why do we need to know historically what Aveira the Mekoshesh did? So there is a reason. Lechadera. Amarav Matzasi Megillah story in Beirab Chia. He found something in writing. Right, most Torah Shabbat Peh was not written; they were not allowed to write it. So this was some kind of hidden Megillah. Beirab Chia in the Yeshiva Rab Chia, the Kosuv Bey, and they found a Tanaitic statement. Isi ben Yehuda Oimer. Avos Melachos Arboim Chasarachas. There are 39 Melachos. Bimasan Kula Belamachas V'Nachai Belachas. And if you did all 39 in one period of forgetfulness, you only bring one korban. Freit the Gemara Achas V'Sulo, but none. Avos Melachos Arboim Chasarachas. V'Avinambo. And we analyze. Minyon Alamali. The Gemara is not a math book. I can count. If it listed to me the 39 melachos, I would have counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 39. Yeah, I had to be told that there are 39. So it's got to teach me something. What did it teach me? Let's say you forgot that all of these 39 malachos were osir, and you did all 39. You have to bring 39 korban chatas. So what do you mean? Isi ben Yehuda v'masan eino chayv alachas. What does that mean? Ema eino chayv alachas mehem. So what Isi ben Yehuda wrote, he said that one of the 39 you're not chayiv misa for. On 38 of the 39, if you do those malachos, you're chayiv misa. On one of them, you're not chayiv. And there was a question which one we're talking about. Rav Yehuda pshita leida ma'avir chayiv. Rav Yehuda, who said that the makoshesh, what does makoshesh means? That he carried dal dams rabim. It's clear, at least, that that one malacha is not the one that Isi ben Yehuda is talking about, because they did put the makoshesh to death. So havara. So that's why it's important to know what the makoshesh is. We know for sure that havara is chayiv misa, while the masnisa who said that he did toilesh, we know for sure that toilesh was chayiv misa. It was not the one that was excluded from misa. And the one who said that he gathered something, it's very pashut that also, according to Rav Acha, was chayiv misa. Mar savar hamiyas lo misafke. Umar savar hamiyas lo misafke. Each one would hold that their malacha is not a suffix, that it's chayiv misa. We know for sure that it's chayiv misa. I'm the one who holds that it's carrying. I'm the one who holds that it's toilet. At least those, they would not be mesupik. All other 38, we could be mesupik. One of them is not chayiv misa. And that could be an argument in Bezdin. Think about it. If somebody was brought to Bezdin with 2 Eidim and Hasra, that they violated a malacha on Shabbos, if it was any malacha other than these 3, where there was a tradition that the makoshesh is one of these 3, and we know for sure that those are chayiv misa, one of those 3. So 39 minus 3, 36 malachos. Maybe we could have gotten them off from misa, because we could have said if this Megillah story is authentic, then maybe we shouldn't give this guy misa, because it's a suffix whether maybe this malacha, the 36, is the malacha that's not chayiv misa. That's a chiddush I thought of. I don't know if anybody writes that. I didn't see directly anybody says that, but I'm wondering whether that could have been used in a defense, unless we say that this Megillah storm was not considered authentic to rely on. Weiter. Ton Rabbana, Mekoishe Zet Tzlovchad. The B'nai Tzlovchad, they came to Moshe and they said, Avinu meis b'midbar. Our father died b'midbar. So there's a tradition that the Mekoshesh was Tzlovchad. Chenu Omer, Vayub Bnei Yisrael b'midbar, Vayimtzu ish, Ula'alanu Omer, Avinu meis b'midbar. Ma'ala'alam Tzlovchad, Avkan Tzlovchad. The midbar connection. Right? Vayub Bnei Yisrael b'midbar. And it's Avinu meis b'midbar. Divri Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, I don't like what you did. You're going to get punished for what you said. If you're right that the Mekoshesh is Tzlovchad, the Torah kept his name out of it, and you revealed it. So it's like a lashon hara. And the imlav. And if you're not correct, it wasn't him. Then Tzlovchad was completely innocent. You said, so hey, you're getting yourself in trouble. Okay. We'll pick up tomorrow.
All right.
This is very, very, very interesting pairing.
Shkoyach, Mazel Tov, Ernie.